good morning again. It's still morning, and I found another book of Blossom Culp, who, in our last book, helped to take care of Inez and to get her put in her grave down in New Orleans. Now, this is a sequel or the next book. Thanks to the good people at Amazon, you can order books and they'll be delivered right to your house. It's fabulous. Anything but books, especially. This book is called Ghosts I Have Been. Ghosts I Have Been. It caught my curiosity as well. It's good to see ya. The prologue says, I tell you, the world is full of ghosts. A person wonders if there's a soul to be found on the other side. Or anybody snug in a quiet grave. I've seen several haunts and I've been one myself. You've probably heard about me already. For a time I was the most famous girl in 2 countries. I've been called Ghost Girl and the Fantastic Faker by turns. Numerous people have commented on my adventures in this world and others, but none could explain my powers entirely. And many are liars outright. I lived a full 14 years without thought to giving any extra talents of my own. Psychic gifts were to me the advantages certain other people had, like good looks or regular meals. So my first glimpses into worlds unseen came as quite a surprise to me, among others. Whether you be born with the gift or attain it often debated. As you'll see, my gift tended to creep up on me and would often pop out under pressure. Practice makes perfect, as the poet says. I seemed to refine my powers as I went, much like learning to write a clear hand or driving one of those new automobiles. All this was leading in a direction. At the start, I was no more than a plain American girl with nothing going for me but spunk. Spunk. What is spunk? Spunk is what you have, Flora. It's what makes you try again. It makes you keep going on and knowing you're as good as anybody. Better than some. Spunk. Little did I know where my newfound talents would lead me. Across tossing seas and into the lives of high and low degree, I little knew the wickedness of this world until I saw beyond it. 2 fates were entwined, mine and the tormented ghost of a boy, a perfect stranger to me who died a death I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. As I pen these words to leave a lasting record, I wonder myself where it all began. We start up in the mists of mystery, and there we all end, and the souls drift like ground fog across 100 worlds and far frontiers. Many's the ignorant person who claims that spirits and haunts have forsaken the modern age in this new 20th century, but what they do not know would fill a book, and this is the book. Chapter 1. There are girls in this town who put their time up on their porches doing fancy work with embroidery hoops. You can also see them going about in surreys or on the back seats of autos with their mothers, paying calls in white gloves. They all as alike as gingerbread figures in skirts. I was never one of them. My name is Blossom Culp, and I've always lived by my wits. My mama and me live hard by the streetcar right of way on the downside. Ours is a 2-room dwelling, which we have rent-free because it's abandoned. We have always lived off a hard clay garden, put by what we could against the winter. For extras, I've been on my own since I was knee-high. Knee-high means how tall she was, so since she was a little kid. My mama picked up a certain amount of loose change in palm reading, herb cures, other occupations I will mention. But until I became famous, she never made her skills known. And in this modern age, if you don't advertise, the world doesn't beat a path to your door. Remember this. It bears on the story later on. Since various people, newspaper reporters and such like, have asked me about my paw, or if I had one, I'll just mention that Pa's a traveling man. We don't hear tell of him for long stretches. He doesn't figure into this present account, since to my recollection he didn't turn up at our place any time during 1913 and 1914. Still, I wouldn't be surprised to come in at any time now and find Pa stretched out insensible before the stove. As the poet says, not drunk is he who from the floor can rise alone and still drink more, but drunk is he who prostrate lies without the power to drink or rise. At intervals, we get picture postcards from Pa, who lives his life answering the call of the open road. The name and address on the cards merely the Culps, Bluff City, written in by a series of unknown hands. The spaces for messages are blank. Neither my Pa nor my Ma can read or write, though they have their talents like anybody else. And now you know why Bubba bugged you to learn to write your name. Here I have shown progress, for I am a quick study as to reading and other matters. My penmanship, as you can see from this page, is first rate. My grammar is not perfect, but then whose is? As to spelling, I could cover my midi blouse with medals won at various spelling bees. None of these accomplishments will take you far, of course, if you lack what the world calls advantages. I consider that I was always well off without such advantages, as they tend to kill your intuition. As a poet says, necessity is what makes the mule plow, and I, for one, would not care to pass my life up on a porch, gazing into an embroidery hoop. Through this story, you will like, and the story before, that Blossom is always quoting poets. So we know she's a reader, don't we? Naming no names, there are some people here in Bluff City who still say I do not know my place. How wrong they are. I know it well and always did, but I have always meant to better myself. And when you're on your own in this life, it is all uphill work. All of us can do better than we do now, can't we? You just have to keep at it. Spunk. As the poet says, vanity has done more in this world than modesty. Now I am not vain when it comes to looks. If I was, a trip to the mirror could cure me. My eyes are very nearly black, practically black. If I am roused to anger or action, my hair needs more attention than I have time to give it. My legs, being thin, do not show to good advantage as being 14, and I'm still in short skirts. But I am vain about my resourcefulness. There is more to being learned about a town from the wrong side of the tracks than from the right. I've made a study of this town long before I had the power to see beyond it. Bluff City is mainly divided into two camps: those who have already arrived and those who never will. Sad, but true. So I'm something of a misfit. But the advantage of a small town is that the rich and the poor live cheek to jowl, right next to each other. Just over the streetcar tracks lives a well-to-do family named Armsworth. They have a son, Alexander, who's in my same grade at school. He is getting to be the lanky stage. However, being a boy, he's not as mature for his age as I am. Boys never are, which is a scientific fact. Between his house and mine on the Armsworth property is a large outbuilding, known locally as the Ghost Barn. You remember. You may have read about it in all the papers here and elsewhere last spring. Through the barn, although the barn was haunted, it no longer is, thanks to me and Alexander Armsworth. Here we start out on another adventure. She lives in a town where she has studied it and knows it. Do you know our good community of Jerome? Study it and know it. There are many advantages, many opportunities that if you're spunky enough, you can take advantage of them. Oh, I love you so much. I'm so glad to see you again. Stand straight and tall, and I want to say this to you. When you're introduced to a person, and we practice this, I want you to look right at their face, into their eyes. This is so difficult. And I want you to say hello. And then you don't have to stay staring at them. Then you can look down at your shoes or their shoes as long as you have made contact with their eyes. Will you practice that this week? You can practice on your mom or your sister or your dad, somebody you're comfortable with. All right. I love you. I've got some projects I'm going to work on, and some of them I'll invite you to. Would that be good? All right. See you tomorrow. Bye.